You're ready to roll, we can do that.
I am good to go. So welcome everybody to the 979th meeting of the North Carolina Board of Pharmacy. I'm going to start by reading the Ethics Act. Pull that up. I got too many papers in front of me here.
I know, I've got stacks all over my desk.
In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest and appearance of conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest or appearance of conflict with respect to any matters coming before the board today? If so, please identify the conflict or appearance of conflict and refrain from any participation in the particular matter involved. Okay, like there are none.
Very good. That would the minutes would be up next.
Okay. So has everybody had a chance to review the January 2021 meeting minutes? And do we have a motion to approve those meetings?
Motion moved.
Okay, I think I had a motion from Andy and a second from Wallace. Was that you?
That'll be fine, yeah.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Bill?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Keith?
Aye.
Wallace?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
And I as well. So the minutes are approved.
Very good. Well, welcome everybody. Obviously, you're familiar with the format here. We're going to go through the normal business that we have, just catch up and report type of stuff before we move into the retreat. And we will have a closed session at the conclusion of the regular business to consider a summary suspension, and then we can reconvene for the retreat right after that. I had suggested to Ashley, as everybody was logging on, why don't we plan to take a break at noon so everybody can get lunch, and however long y'all want to take the break would be fine. And then the only other sort of specific time for the afternoon would be Joe Jordan and Cindy Clark requested if we could have a specific time for them since they're going to be logging on to talk about the Haywood Fund. And I suggested to them 2 o'clock, which they said would be just fine with them. So I think wherever we are at 2 o'clock, we'll just make sure we pause that discussion and so we can hear from Joe and Cindy. So, well, I guess we can start with the reports, and Missy is up first to give an update on the renewal season, which is rapidly coming to a close.
Good morning. Can y'all hear me?
Loud and clear, Missy Beth.
Okay, great. Yeah, so, this will be very quick. I mean, February obviously is nearing the end. Renewals are kind of coming in very slowly at this point, but they always do, because the majority of the people have already renewed, and the majority of the facilities have already renewed. So you can see the numbers there, 16,702 pharmacists, 15,897 techs, and you can see the rest of the numbers. And that's about it. Nothing else to report, unless you all have any questions.
Clearly, what we have not seen that we were watching was, obviously we were watching for any COVID perhaps contributed to or caused by a drop in renewals, but they have not manifested. So we're right on the numbers that we usually are.
Yep.
So, 16,700 pharmacists have renewed. Do you know, Missy, right off the top of your head, about how many are out of state?
Not off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I can certainly get that for you for next month's renewal.
It's okay. No, I was just reflecting on the 14,000 plus when I ran for re-election that were eligible to vote. So I was just trying to compare that 16,000 now to.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I can definitely look. I can even have it for the retreat later on today.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. To those who are calling in from the outside, just a reminder, if you would, please mute your microphones. We just heard somebody laughing, and I'm sure the joke was funny, but if you would, please mute if you're not speaking. Thanks. Any other questions for Missy on the renewal? I mean, you see, the only number that was down was dispensing PAs, and even that was negligible, and in fact may not be so anymore. I'm sure there've probably been a few more renewals since Missy ran the stats, but everything else looks as it should.
Thank you, Missy.
Thank you.
JP is going to give us the financial report. JP, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, loud and clear.
All right, great. So financials at the end of January, as Jay and Missy just mentioned, everything is on track, and we have not seen the turn down in renewals as we had budgeted, just because we didn't know what COVID would do to those numbers. So as you read through the memo, I'm sure you saw from our renewals, over by the budgeted amount. In fact, compare that number to last year's, we're at about a 98% renewal rate, which is, I think historically, Jay, what we've seen is in that 97, 98% renewal rate area.
That's right.
Aside from that, if we look at the income statement real quick, you can see, our revenues, we conservatively budgeted lower. All those have surpassed. We've budgeted for 4.4. We're at 4.2 already. So most of our budget marks have already surpassed the annual, and we still have 5 months of financial information to come in, right? February through June. So I would anticipate another $500K on average, I think, during that time will come in. And if we look down at operating expenses, you'll see we're still trending lower, primarily due just to the operating activities being restricted by the pandemic. So we're, a good 270K under that amount. So we've got quite a cushion right now in our operating budget. And I know we have started to tackle some large projects, which I think show up in this month. Aside from that, just in the memo, I'm sure you all saw, as part of our budgeting process last year, we had agreed to revisit the staffing compensation policy that the board had passed. Again, we had conservatively budgeted, so we had agreed not to do salary adjustments with the contingency that we would come back to that if we could financially. And in fact, we are at that point, and the Finance Committee meeting, Finance and Budget and Finance Committee met on February 2nd and agreed to implement the salary structure that the board had passed in the previous years, and to go ahead and implement those changes. And I think, Jay, at this point, I'll kind of turn it over to you, because I think we need a board motion. Is that right?
Yeah, we do. And so just to recap on that, when we passed our budget for the fiscal year back in May of 2020, the budget did not provide for the normal staff salary adjustments within the compensation plan that you all are familiar with. We held off on those. We came back, as JP said, and the budget committee, which is Michelle and Ashley, met to review financial performance for the board at the halfway point through the fiscal year. And Ashley and Michelle are recommending to you that we go ahead and implement the normal salary adjustment we would have seen under the compensation plan back in June, and to implement that effective February 1st. So JP has very helpfully provided some tables on page 2 of his memo that show the overall impact of implementing that change effective February 1st, which you'll see is going to have a net impact on our expense side budget of only $9,000 for the year. So we would be asking for you all to move to approve the budget report, and also to move to approve the budget adjustment recommended by the Budget and Finance Committee. And Ashley and Michelle, I'll stop, because y'all are the committee, and see if the board members had questions or discussion points on that.
I have a clarifying question. So are we down a staff member? Is that where that $60,000?
Yes,
Go ahead, Jay.
Well, as you remember, one of our field investigators resigned to take a job in a different agency, and rather than fill that position, Ellen and her team took a hard look at their processes and investigations and inspections and determined a way to realign responsibilities, and have done that, and it's working out very, very well. So our head count is down one, but it's intentionally and knowingly down one.
Yeah. Thank you.
Another part of that, Bill, under the retirement contributions, some of the positive variants we're seeing there are forfeiture balances within our retirement plan. It's a smaller amount, but it is making up some of that 51K favorable variance in that column.
I'm sorry, what's a forfeiture?
A forfeiture balance is when somebody leaves the board before their retirement contributions have vested in our 401K.
Yeah,
we can't take those funds out of our plan, but we can utilize those to offset some of our expenses.
Is that a 5-year vesting?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, it is full vest at 5 years.
Are there any other questions from? Oh, Wallace has got a question.
Well, yeah, at some point in time, and this isn't the time, but I just want to mention it. How did this Gatsby accounting changes and stuff affect the board? It would have been 2 or 3 years ago when, all that stuff changed and you had to start posting a liability for retirement dollars and whatever. And so at some point in time, I mean, like I say, not today and not now, but just JP or Jay or whatever, I'd like to I'm just interested because I know it's really every board I've been on, it's been sort of a hit to.
JP, is there sort of a quickish answer to that, and we can do it more in depth if we need to.
Well, I wasn't sure, Wallace, if you were referring to there was some changes just with pension obligations, and that dealt with the changes between a defined benefit and a defined contribution. Ours is a defined contribution plan, so those changes wouldn't really have affected us.
Okay,
they affected primarily not-for-profits that have pensions in place. A lot of older companies as well have those. And the major change there was basically making sure that you could fund the pensions that were on your books, basically. Obviously, yeah, that change doesn't really affect us.
Okay, that's all I was curious about.
That was big news for the state retirement plan, Wallace.
Yes, it was. Every county, the local board of health, everybody's been hit pretty hard with that just makes the numbers change dramatically.
Right. Which is why they, I think, have stopped offering the pension, correct? I think for new state employees.
Yeah, I forget how it works.
401K now is pretty much the only option you have.
Yeah.
The military did that years ago as well.
Yes, pretty much everybody's done that.
Bill's got his hand raised. I don't know, Bill, do you have another question?
Yes. Ashley, you're muted also.
Thank you.
Bullet number 2 about the pharmacy permits and pharmacy renewals. Can you just clarify what that means? I think I know what it means, but I'm not sure.
Sure, yeah. If you skip down to our income statement, what I do sometimes is sort of look at balances combined to sort of see where we're at. So with the pharmacy permits and pharmacy renewals, since they're the same fee amount, I believe, I kind of look at those the same. And if we take, pharmacy renewals is over by 24K, pharmacy permits, over by 24, pharmacy renewals over by 26. So we're over 50K collectively. But if you look at the year-to-date actual column versus the annual budget, you can see our pharmacy permits were at 137.7, but we've forecasted for 188. So we're still about 50K short there, meaning in the next 5 months, I would anticipate getting another 50K in pharmacy permits. However, our pharmacy renewals that we forecast, we budgeted for 654, and we are already at 679. So we've already surpassed our annual budget. And again, that was because we conservatively budgeted under in all of our revenue areas, especially the major ones, right? We just didn't know how COVID was going to impact renewal numbers, both at an individual as well as an entity level. Does that clarify, Bill, or did I make it more muddy?
No, well, I guess I'm wondering about, does that mean we have fewer permits total?
No, it means, so the renewals were actually over budget, which means that we had a higher percentage of our existing permits renew than we anticipated. So, but the permits, the new permits, we obviously, the renewals all come in between November and February of each fiscal year. So you get all the revenue you're going to get from renewals during that time period. So we know what that's going to be. But permits, new permits, obviously come in across, across the entirety of the year.
Okay.
So we try to, and it's not like it's a linear curve running July through June, but what JP was saying is that at this point in the year, we have received $137,700 in new pharmacy permit application revenue. We had expected we'd have $113,000 by this point. We're ahead of that, but for the entire year, we had budgeted that we'd see $188,000 in revenue. So these are all positive trends.
Okay.
Yeah, and indeed, in that over-under budget column, Bill, if you look, we're only under budget in a few of those revenue areas at this point, right? And which is remarkable. And again, I think that's just because we budgeted so conservatively on the revenues, and we've sort of surpassed those year-to-date marks already in most areas.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, always happy to dive into the weeds anytime you guys want to talk numbers.
So are there any other questions from board members, comments? So Jay, I think that we need two motions here.
Andy, I think that might have been you with the echo there. Yeah, got it, thanks. Sorry, Ashley, go ahead.
Okay, so I think we need two motions. One to accept the updates, and the second one to ratify the Budget and Finance Committee recommendations. Is that correct, Jay?
That is correct. You can do them separately or as a single motion, as is your pleasure.
Right. Do we have any motions to do them together?
I move that we move them together, and I move that we accept them.
All right. So Bill has made the motion. I see a hand raised by Andy. Andy, are you second? Okay. All right. So all in favor of approving both motions, please say aye. Keith?
Aye.
Wallace?
Aye.
Michelle? I saw the aye, but I think you're muted, Michelle, but I saw it. Andy?
Aye.
Bill?
Aye.
And I as well. So the motion carries.
Thank you all on that, and in particular, thanks to JP and Rhonda for really scrubbing down the midway point data, which I'm certain was a good help for Ashley and Michelle, and sets us up well for the budget process, which we begin for the next fiscal year here in a couple of months. And Michelle and Ashley, thank you both for your time, your consideration at the halfway point here.
And I just want to say thank you to JP and Rhonda, because Michelle and I had a ton of questions and we spent 2 hours on the phone. So thank you guys for being patient with us so we could get it all understood and in our heads. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. We're always happy to do that, and appreciate that you and Michelle were engaged and interested in those things. You see, JP can go on forever talking about all that stuff. So
spreadsheets for miles.
JP, thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
And let's go to an investigative docket report. Josh, I think you're doing it. I think Crystal was originally going to do it, and
yes, sir, I am.
All right, take it away, brother.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to see everybody. So if you'll look behind your tab for the number of cases we have from the beginning of the year up through February 11th, we're at a total of 26. We've got the procedural legal category in the lead with 8, and then of course the AOC charges in second with 7, and then the errors and omissions with 6 cases, and then diversions, substance abuse are tied, and then of course we have 1 inspection follow-up. That number is way down, obviously, because we really haven't resumed full-time field operations. If there is a absolute need for one of our folks to go out for an inspection or for an interview or to collect some paperwork or something, we all make sure that they have their PPE and that their supervisor knows. So again, that's why that number is way down. And then for the surrenders, right now we just have a total of 2 up through February 11th, and as Jay said, we have a possible summary suspension for the closed session. So everything otherwise seems to be still moving along quite well. I know everybody would like to get back out there in a full-time basis, but we are plugging along as we can. So take any questions about the cases or surrenders if anybody has it.
And again, obviously these are from January 1 to date, so that's so we're have small numbers on that. We are working, board members, so you know, we are watching and with the COVID trends are headed in the right directions now, and then as the vaccine is becoming available, we will be in a position that we're going to start ramping field work back up. So we'll keep following the trends and reacting appropriately. Anything else for Josh?
No, that's it, sir.
All righty. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you. All right.
And Kristen will give a very quick update on the election. This is purely a verbal report. Kristen, go ahead.
Good morning. Thanks, everyone. So yeah, just a very quick update. The election continues to go very well. We have, as of this morning, 2,208 votes. So this time last month, I believe I reported a number. We've gotten about, a little over 100 more votes. So they're going to trickle in over the next 13 days, but that's really all I have to report. Everything continues to go well, and we are set for 10 o'clock on March 2nd. Hopefully you all got that invitation, and we will present the results.
Thanks, Kristen. Any
Absolutely.
questions for Kristen on that?
Is this the number that you usually have to vote? Is that in line with?
Yeah, Michelle, it's a little on the low end, frankly. We never historically had great participation in the elections. I think in my 15 years here, Kristen, the high watermark was probably about 3,400 votes thereabout.
That sounds right. I do have stats that go back to 1987, which I'll be glad to present real quick at the March 2nd meeting if you'd like to see that. But yes, I think that's right, Jay. So
I was just curious because it seemed low based upon the numbers that we just said of the pharmacists we had. So I was just wondering if this was historically this way or if this was a one-off. So thank you. I'm not creating any additional work, Kristen.
No, it's not work. It's not. We keep that stuff, Michelle. But yes, we're in sort of the meaty part of the curve of the number of votes we tend to get in this. But it is consistently fairly low turnout. There was, and so over the years, when I started here, we had paper-based elections, which created some obvious potential disincentives to voter participation, that sort of thing. And we moved to an electronic election process, I guess, Kristen, about 2008, 2009, I think. And that had initially started improving voter participation, and we sort of peaked out at that the election. Bill, it was your first election. It was the year Bill was elected his fourth term, and that was sort of our high water mark, and we've sort of been trending down again since then. But one of the reasons, Michelle, we changed the most recent change to the voting rule was to make the election period coterminous with the renewal period. So the hope was, well, everybody's got to log on to their profile to renew their license, and the hope was that sort of putting it right in front, we might see a bump, but it hasn't materialized for whatever reason.
I think, well, Michelle, sometimes there are two elections simultaneously, and Bill's was one of those, and I expect those are much higher than other years.
Okay. That's probably right.
When you have a more exciting incumbent, usually voter turnout's a little better. Well, anger can also motivate people.
I think that's true.
You say hey?
But Michelle, I will tell you, as the public member and looking in, any thoughts or ideas that you might have about things that staff can think about to help with this, we are all ears. But I know Kristen and I have spent a lot of time over the years trying to think about ways to boost voter participation.
Chris, $100 bill with thank you written on the back.
I'm sorry, I think you're breaking up, Bill. I think you just went on mute there. But seriously, Michelle, or anybody, if there are ideas, sure we would love to hear them. Any other questions for Kristen or comments for Kristen? Chris, she does, of course, continue to do her superlative job of keeping that election moving very smoothly and responding to questions and providing information. So thank you, Kristen, as always.
Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you, Kristen.
Consent agenda, I think, I really don't think we have anything on the consent agenda. Remember, we did not have pre-hearing conferences yesterday. One second.
We're still set for me to do some pre-hearing next Tuesday, right, Clint?
Correct, and this was the weird month that we were picking up some background. So Ashley, that's why you were off the hook this time around, and Andy's going to pick up some pre-hearings next week on some outstanding matters.
Although Andy, a couple of the respondents have not yet popped up, so there is a chance that they will pop up and frantically ask for continuance. I'll let you know. 10-4, thank you, sir.
But yeah, Andy, all the notices have gone out, so we'll know for sure here pretty soon. So actually, I don't think there's anything we need a motion on the consent agenda. We would need to next move into a closed session for a potential summary suspension. And let me suggest the following. For those who are members of the public who are participating in the meeting, if you want to continue to listen in on the meeting after the closed session, how about this, Ashley? Could we go, assuming there's a motion and we do go into a closed session, can we go in and then plan to restart our meeting at 11? And so anybody, which will give us plenty of time to do the closed session. And so anybody who wants to resume participation from the public will know they can log back in at 11 o'clock.
That sounds good to me. So do we have a motion to go into closed session and resume at 11 a.m.?
Motion.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion by Andy, a second by Wallace. All those in favor say aye. Bill?
Aye.
Andy?
Aye.
Keith?
Aye.
Wallace?
Aye.
Michelle?
Aye.
And I as well. So we will go into closed session for our summary suspension and resume at 11 a.m.
Yep, and we'll pause here, and Antoine will let us know when we are clear for the closed session. And Kim, I believe you're presenting, is that right?
Yes, sir, I am. Can everybody
All
hear
right.
me?
We can. Let's hold for a second. We'll see as soon as Antoine gives us the high sign.